Hi, my name is Deep Shamsher Rana, and welcome to my man cave, my music room. I'd like to thank Revolution TV for having me here and to share my small collection of guitars that I have with me. And as a disclaimer, I'd like to say that I'm actually not a collector in the professional sense of the word. I'm more of a hobbyist, enthusiast, and a player. So most of the guitars that you're going to see here, that I'm going to show you, will reflect the kind of music that I'm more interested in. And most of the guitars that you see here are mostly with a lot of vintage appointments. You know, I don't have many modern whammy bar shred guitars or Floyd Rose equipped guitars as such. So like I said earlier, most of the guitars are the reissues of vintage guitars from the 50s and the 60s. So starting with the Fenders that I have, I want to show you my first guitar. This is a 52 reissue Telecaster. I got this from Wildwood Guitars in Colorado, shipped all the way to Kathmandu a long time back. So this has been like my #1 guitar with me for a lot of, whenever I get deployed out of the country or out of Kathmandu. So this has been with me through the Maoist insurgencies, the Madhes Andolan, the Limbuan movement. This has also been out on UN missions in the Caribbean, in Haiti, and also in South Sudan. So a lot of wear and tear on this one, as you can see. It's very relict. And this is the only difference between a standard 52 reissue and this one is the finish on this one is a thin skin finish, meaning that it's like thin skin nitro, which ages very quickly compared to your other regular finishes. So this has been with me since I think 2003, 4, something like that, when they first came out with the Wildwood special thin skin line. And yeah, and I played this quite extensively when I was playing a lot of cover songs with the Midnight Riders. And so this is my baby, long time. Whenever I'm out of Kathmandu, this is the guitar that I take along with me. And moving on, next, another Fender that I have is the Stratocaster. This red Stratocaster, it's a 50s, this is a Mexican Stratocaster. It's not that one is an American vintage reissue. The one that I showed previously, this is a Mexican one. So I've had this long-term love-hate relationship with Strats. You know, this is probably the 5th Stratocaster that I've had in my life. So the first one was an American Standard, which I got all the way back in 97, 98 from New York. And I think it's with one of the Lusa boys now. It's famous for the Sting signature that is in the headstock on that guitar. I met Sting when he was in Kathmandu a couple of years back, I think like 10 or 15 years back, and had the opportunity of having dinner with him. So I actually took that guitar and got it signed. But somehow it's with not with Sunit, but with the other guy. I think his name is Roshan. So that guitar is with him. And then another Strat that I had was a 57 reissue Stratocaster, which is now with, I believe, with Manoj Casey. I don't know if he still has it. And then the third Strat I had was a swap that I did with Jason Baidya with my SG. And that is also with I think, Sumit of Sumit Guitar Restoration. He has it. And this guitar just came along, you know. I'm a big fan of Hank Marvin, The Shadows, and Mark Knopfler. And they're famous for the red guitar. So the Fiesta red color caught my eye, caught my fancy, and then I thought, why not give it a try? And this has been like, I just love this guitar. The neck is perfect. Everything is like, you know, so comfortable. So it doesn't matter if it's an American guitar or a custom shop Fender or a Mexican or a Chinese guitar, but what matters is what speaks to you, what is more comfortable for you to play. And you know, so I just bonded with this guitar. So I think this is a keeper for me. I've been playing this since the last 2 or 3 years now only. It's quite new. So this is the Strat I have. I don't think I'm going to need any more Strats in my life anymore after this, hopefully. And the other Fender, well, this is a Squier Fender Squier by Fender. It's their Fender's budget line. It's a Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster, a fantastic guitar for the money. So if anybody's like just starting out, or you are on a low budget, you know, any young players with limited budget, I highly recommend they try out the Classic the Classic Vibe Telecaster. And the thing about this is, I've been playing my other Telecaster for a long time, and it's, you know, it's kind of special, and maybe I should retire it to my bedroom only, or maybe a few shows and not take it out. So this is going to be my replacement for the other Telecaster. So I mean, it's perfect. I mean, everything about this is bone stock. I haven't made any modifications to it. I'll probably add a Bixby here to, you know, do a little tremolo arm thing. Other than that, this is a fantastic guitar for the money. Made in China, crafted in China. I think they're now even making this in the newer ones are coming out from Indonesia. Excellent guitars for the money. Go for this one. And my last Fender is my latest one. Is the Fender Jazzmaster. So with my new project, after the Kathmandu Cats, I've got a new project going on that's concentrating mostly on instrumental rock and roll, you know, surf and music from the 50s and the 60s, space age kind of thing. So this is perfect for those surfy tunes, and very good guitar for if you want to play like things like spaghetti western, Ennio Morricone, that kind of stuff. So this is I just got this like a couple of months back. It's brand new, and it's fantastic. I love it. I'm still in a honeymoon phase with this guitar, but you'll be seeing more of this guitar on stage come next month when we start playing out again. So this is it, the Fender Jazzmaster. So these are the 4 Fender guitars that I have at the moment. And I want to show you my Gibsons now. I only have 2 Gibsons at the moment to show you. The first one is this is a Gibson SG Classic. So this would be the guitar very similar to this one, except they didn't have the bridge. This would be the same guitar famously played by The Who in live at Leeds, and also Carlos Santana in Woodstock. So they call that one the Gibson SG Special, I think. This is the SG Classic, but very similar appointments. P90 pickups on these ones, and the only difference is that they had a wraparound bridge from here, just like a wraparound thing, and no bridge here as such. Like the bridge, they did something here instead. And so if you, this is a very raw sounding, very, you know, like the Who, very, you know, plug your guitar, turn up your amp loud and just hit it kind of guitar. So it's a great rock guitar. And if you remember Soul Sacrifice from Santana's gig in Woodstock, these are the tones coming out of this. And also check out the Who's live at Leeds. This is a similar tone coming out of this. I was talking about this guitar with Abhishek Mishra and recommended that you listen to all these albums, and then we have to get together one day and then crank this thing up. So this is the Gibson SG Classic that I have. Moving on, this is my Gibson Les Paul. This is from their custom shop. It's a reissue of a 1958 Les Paul, exact replica, also famously called the R8 Les Paul. So R8 standing for reissue 8. So it's just standard PAF humbuckers on this one, your standard tuning, I mean volume knobs, tone knobs, and this is a killer guitar. I mean Gibson Les Paul I think is like the ultimate rock guitar, and I also used this guitar extensively while I was playing with the Midnight Riders like a decade ago. Gigged this quite a lot. It's great for those you know, southern rock and classic rock kind of thing, Led Zeppelin. Also fantastic for early Eric Clapton stuff. And so this is like from their custom shop. It's called Gibson 1958 reissue R8 Les Paul from the Gibson custom shop. A fantastic guitar. I might have a couple of YouTube videos featuring this guitar live, so you can check that out. So these are the two Gibson guitars that I have, and not a Gibson, but a variation of, this is from the Epiphone company. It's the Epiphone Casino, famously played by John Lennon of the Beatles. And you can hear this guitar quite a bit in all those later Beatles album, the White Album and Sgt. Pepper's. And so again, this is also coming with dog ear P90 pickups, your standard volume and tone knobs. So this is like a fully hollow body. It's not even a semi-hollow body. So it's a very resonant, light, but it tends to feedback quite a bit because of the hollow body nature. So this is like the budget version of the Gibson ES330. Okay, so the ES330 would have the Gibson name here, but in itself, it's a classic model played by a lot of great rock and roll artists from the yesteryears. So also you can do a bit of jazz on the neck pickup of this thing also. And yeah, that's it. It's the Epiphone Casino, also one of my favorite guitars. Very light, very toneful, very woody, airy kind of tone coming out of this one, like with most hollow bodies and semi-hollow bodies. So moving on to my Gretsch's next, my big orange Gretsch guitar. So this is the Gretsch from the Electromatic series, the 5120. So the story behind this guitar is I was actually on the hunt for the Gibson SG Classic. I was in, where was this? West Palm Beach, Florida, at a guitar center and checking out the SG Classic when I saw this hung on the wall. And they had marked it down considerably from the MSRP because it was used, kind of like, not even used, it was just somebody just bought it and returned it the next day. So immediately the price was marked down because of that. And for the price, I thought, wow, this is a great guitar. So I just brought it and brought it all the way back to Nepal. But I've done a lot of modifications on this one to make it, better player and more Gretschy sounding. So the main thing that I did with this was change the pickups here. So these are not single coils or humbuckers. These are called Filtertrons. Okay, so these pickups are from a company called TV Jones that makes Filtertrons for Gretsch guitars. So I ordered this, and the True Arc bridge. The bridge was also replaced with a fully brass, very resonant bridge. And I also changed the nut for a proper bone nut and some cosmetic things like this Lucky 7 dice, you know. So I got all this stuff and gave it to my buddy Sunny Tuladar, who does amazing guitar restoration works. And they said, Sunny, here's this guitar. Here are the replacement parts. You work on this and please give it back to me. And then he was like, yeah, it took about a week to get everything fixed, and now it plays fantastic. I use this quite a lot with my big brass band, the Kathmandu Cats and the Dirty Boogie brass band, particularly to play rockabilly music like Brian Setzer, Gene Vincent, Carl Perkins, those kind of stuff. And I'm slowly learning a bit of fingerstyle, Chet Atkins things also on this. So this just sounds amazing. Doesn't sound this? I think this is the first Gretsch guitar in the country, as far as I know. And then I got another one, and then I think Sorin now has another one. So I don't know if there are any more. I've only seen 3 Gretches in the country, and this is the first one that I know of. This is a special Gretsch 125th anniversary. So the company started in 1883 to 2008. So this is like their special anniversary model. That's why it's it's just an amazing guitar. You have to hear this guitar one day. Come to one of my gigs next month, so you can hear all of these guitars. And so I just loved Gretsch so much that I thought I wanted another one, and I was just lusting for this sparkly beauty. You know, this is like a solid body, fully solid body Gretsch guitar. Also, again with Filtertron pickups. So this is actually a gift from my wife, my better half, our 10th anniversary, I think it was. So yeah, you know, I showed her, yeah, this is what I want, and then she got this for me. Um, um, so the difference between that and this is that is a hollow body guitar and this is a solid body guitar. So similar differences in tones, you know, that is more airy, fluty, woody sounding, more resonant, and this is more of a rock grunge, you know, that kind of, you can play punk rock on this, you can play like shoegaze on this, a lot of things. You can also play some old stuff. I'm actually, because both of these pickups are Filtertrons, I'm thinking maybe replace these pickups with Dynasonics, also very famous Gretsch pickups called Dynasonics single coils. So I might do that pretty soon as the shops open after COVID. So yeah, that's it. This is very, very pretty looking sparkly thing. When you put this up on stage and when the lights fall on this thing, it's just like, wow, you know, it's just a fantastic looker and a fantastic player. Yeah, so aside from that, I have one more guitar to show you. It's the Danelectro. It's a Danelectro 12 string. I think they call it the DC12. So this is a Korean made guitar. I got this in 2016 or 17, not that far away. And so it's a 12 string, and it's got its own thing going on. If you want to play early things like the Byrds or, you know, Tom Petty, or you can even play like Kashmir, Led Zeppelin on it. A lot of very, very interesting tuning and interesting tones coming out of this. But I haven't been able to play this for a long time, so I'll definitely take this out on stage and play out in the very near future. So this is called a aqua blue color, just a fantastic color. And you know, as soon as I saw it, it's like, yes, I want this guitar, and I somehow got it. I had a friend coming over, like with most of my other guitars, a lot of them are brought over by friends coming from the US. God bless them. So this is the last guitar that I have for you to show in my collection. Other than that, I also play a bit of bass here and there. I actually started out as a bass player when I was in high school, so a lot of my high school buddies will remember me as a bass player. But so this is a Fender P bass. This is also special in the sense that this is made in Japan, very early 1981 model. So when you know, the lawsuit era guitars that the Japanese were making in France, the replicas of Stratocasters and Telecasters, excellent replicas, and Fender realized that they were losing money over to these Japanese makers. So they started their own factory, Fender Japan, in the early 80s, 1980, 81. So this is from that time. So the interesting thing that I want to show you about this guitar is, if you focus here, it says on the neck plate, there's a name called Shinji Kosaka. Can you see that? See, it says Shinji Kosaka. It's got no serial numbers. So I did a bit of research on this, and this was like as a promotional thing that Fender Japan was doing when they first started out. So they actually had names of the owner inscripted on these neck plates rather than give them a serial number, you know. So this is actually owned by some guy called Shinji Kosaka, somehow ended up in Kathmandu. I found this at Hamro Bhupal Dai, Bhupal Man Singh, old timer musician Dai. So he had this somewhere in his basement, underneath his bed, and he said, "Deep, come over, I have something to show you." And then he just showed me this bass, and he hasn't played this for ages. And they're like, wow. Then I did a bit of research on this, took some photographs, and thanks to the internet, you can find any details on any guitars now, you know, the history about the guitars. So I found out that this is from that era, the 80s. There's a specific website for early made in Japan, crafted in Japan instruments, and very detailed experts there. So I contacted those people, and they told me the value of this guitar and how rare it is. And so it's a keeper. It plays fantastic. I've put flat wound strings on this for that vintage vibe, you know. It came with round wounds, but I replaced it with flat wounds. And so yeah, so I play a bit of bass here and there sometimes. I played bass, last time I played bass was, I think, with Jason Baide's band quite a while ago, like 2 or 3 years back. as a replacement. So maybe you'll see me playing bass here and there. So yeah, these are the guitars that I have to show you. And moving on to my amplifiers. So sitting right next to the bass is my bass amp. It's an Ampeg, just a standard amp that I bought here locally, just for my room, and it's good enough for small venues and if you're just playing with your friends. But you probably have to line out or mic it up for bigger venues. And also this pedal, the RC booster, bass booster, it's a fantastic pedal. I recommend this bass pedal to all bassists in Nepal. If you can get a hold of this pedal, get it. It will be your always switched on tone shaping, tone enhancing pedal. Fantastic thing. So it's very simple, just the amp, this pedal, and the bass. I used to use a compressor also for this, but I've had some issues with the compressor right now, so I'm just using this setup for playing bass. And moving on to my amplifiers, I'll just put this here. So this is the Marshall 2061X. That's the name of the amp, Marshall 2061X, and the 2061 CX matching cabinets. So these came out, I think in the early 2000s. They came out with the Handwired reissue series that Marshall called. So this along with the 74X, which is a combo amp. And so this is like all Handwired special reissue of the original 2061 amps from the 70s. So once again, this has got a very crunchy, that grindy Marshall, old school Marshall vibe. So like when I mentioned the SG Classic early, paired with the Gibsons, this sounds amazing. Amazing classic rock tones coming out of this amp. So I use this amp quite extensively with the Midnight Riders. And this amp has also been famously played at all the Himalayan blues festivals in Kathmandu. Probably all of them. So since they had like 6 or 7 years going on continuously. So the organizers, back then, shortage of amps and good equipment. So I led this to the people. And then if you see old photos of Himalayan Blues Festival, you can see this amp and actually hear this amp. It's been played by all the big artists that came here to play in Kathmandu during the Blues Festival. So this is the Marshall 2061X. And moving on next is the Fender Princeton Reverb amp. So very interesting story behind this. I found this amp at Luza's studio, where they are in Nardevi. So I went there, we were just swapping out gears and I was selling some stuff. And then, Sunit invited me, Reissue and Sunit, they invited me to come and check out their new studio. So I went to check out their new studio, and then lo and behold, in the corner, I see this old lamp, It wasn't like this at all. It was just like really in a very bad condition, very old. And then I kind of took a look, asked her, what is this? And then they said, oh, we just got this. The story behind this is probably, I'm guessing it's been brought to Nepal by somebody way back in the 70s when the hippies first came to Kathmandu, because that came with a 110 volt American volt. It wasn't a 220. But when I found it, it was just like in a very bad state. The speakers were blown, the transformers were blown, none of the tubes were working. But anyway, I kind of made a deal with them, and then I got that amp in that very wretched condition. And the next time I went to the US, I actually took out the chassis from here and just took that chassis, wrapped it in a towel, put it in my suitcase, and took it all the way to Naples, Florida, to Larry Rogers Amplifiers, who specializes in restoration of vintage amps. So I had him do all the work on it, put new speakers, new transformers, and then I asked him the details about this amp, and then he just looked everywhere. He said, man, this amp is from 1966. Where'd you get it? So, and then I called Sunit and Reissue and told him, hey, man, that amp is like, it's 52 years old now. It's from 1966. And they said, oh shit, we let it go to you, and now it's mine. So it's got a fantastic classic early 60s clean blackface tone. It's great for just playing around the house. It's only like 12 watts. So it's great for the studio work, for home work, for just playing at home. And it's just a fantastic sounding instrument. You'll have to listen to it to believe it. So anyway, I was lucky enough to own this. Now it's probably one of the oldest instruments I own is from 1966 Fender Princeton Reverb. They also do reissues of this amp now. You can buy the exact replica, but you know, vintage is always vintage. It's always sought after. So that's the Fender, and next up is one of my favorite amp right now is the Vox AC15. So it's their standard Vox AC15 model, point-to-point wiring, 15 watts, but it's a loud 15 watts. So 2 channels, you know, so much that you can do with it. I mean, it feels a little intimidating at first to looking at all the knobs and, you know, trying to figure out, because they've got some weird thing going on with the tone cut, and you really have to work on it and to understand it better to make the most out of it. So I'm using this mostly since the last 3 or 4 years for any outdoor gigs in Kathmandu. This is the amp that I'm using. You cannot blast this thing at home because it's a loud 15 watts and it's very heavy, and it's, you know, Vox has always been associated with some of my favorite artists like Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and the Beatles used Vox extensively, and Queen's Brian May, they all use this, and also Hank Marvin from the Shadows. Vox AC15 is his main amplifier. So great classic tones coming out of this amplifier. I think there are several Voxes now in Kathmandu aside from this. I know Vikrant has of AC30 and maybe a few more Voxes, so it's not that rare now. I mean, stuffs are coming in. And moving on to my next amp, this is actually a gift from my friend Megbar. It's a Polytone Mini Brute. So this is a very famous amp for jazz guitar players. So I don't really play jazz that much, although I would love to learn. But you know, he got it from his friend and then he just gave it to me. He probably didn't know what it was, and it wasn't this pretty when I got it. So I did a bit of restoration work on this also, new grill cloths and some electronic issues that I had with it. So, but it sounds fantastic, not just as a jazz guitar amp, but also as if you use it, because it's solid state, you can also play keyboards on it, you can play basses on it. So it's an all-round, for a small venue like, you know, like coffee shops and small bars, excellent amp for that purpose. So these are the 4 big amps that I have for me now. And moving on to some of my mini amp collection. First up is the Fender Champion 600, another just like living room, bedroom, all tube amp. This is also a reissue of a very old 50s circuit. I don't know the name of the circuit exactly, but I believe it's from the late 50s or the early 60s. It's a reissue of that. And the infamous pig noses. So these are, I don't really play these anymore. These are just more like novelty items, you know. All the day they're in perfectly working conditions. So this is the classic model, and this is the tweed version. You can also get this in snake skin and whatnot. And but right now my favorite mini amp is the Yamaha THR. So this is the THR10C. They have the regular normal THR for, like, you know, you can play anything on it, and they also have the THR-X, which is mostly geared for metal players, and this is the THR10C, which is more like blues, you know, classic rock, blues, jazz kind of tones, you know. So like I like this the best out of the 3, because that's the kind of style that most interests me. So this is a fantastic amp for just playing by yourself, or if you're for recording in your own home studio. And I guess you can even play like very small venues if you mic this up, but it's an amazing amp. I would recommend this to anybody looking for a small, you know, cheap budget amp for the home, just to plug. And now I think Yamaha now recently came out with a new version of this amp where they have like Bluetooth connectivity, and it's like wireless. You don't even have to connect your guitars to it, you know. But it's just a great line of amps. So yeah, these are my amplifiers that I have now. So I recently did an overhaul of all my pedals. I probably sold like 90% of all the pedals that I had, and just starting out on this new build. So the only old pedals that I have from my old board is the RC Booster, and yeah, Everything else is new, and the wah pedal. So starting with the wah pedal, this is a Real McCoy picture wah signed by Geoffrey TZ. That's his name, I think. So it's like a, you know, it's those the 70s vibe, a lot of classic rock stuff that you can do here. Also used by a lot of funk guitarists. This is a great wah pedal, but I haven't been able to use it live that much nowadays. I actually haven't used this in like over 5 or 6 years. It's just here by myself. And so if you look at my pedal board, it's just, there's nothing fancy going on here. So I first plug my guitar into the fuzz pedal. I got this one called the Spaghetti Western Fuzz, specifically designed to get spaghetti Western tones from Ennio Morricone songs, like For a Few Dollars More, Good, Bad, Ugly, you know, that kind of stuff, where they use a fuzz as a guitar effect quite a lot. And that is going to my tuner pedal here, the Polytone, which is then going into the SP compressor, another very simple and a great compressor. I'm just using this compressor. Some people use the compressor as a boost, or, you know, to get other kind of tones, but I'm using this mostly to just limit my highs and lows, you know, and the dynamics when I strum guitar. So maybe the highs will be, if I'm not using the compressor and I get carried away, the highs will be spiking up, or the lows will be very quiet. But what this does is it creates kind of a balance, and, you know, just gives it a nice, rhythm playing and single note playing. It gives a nice level, I mean, like equal level across the tune. So that's how I'm using this. And the RC booster is another, like the RC booster for bass. This is just like one pedal that I'm going to be using for my whole life, I guess, as long as I live. It's not leaving this board. It's just a fantastic pedal. You can use this as a clean boost, or you can use this after your overdrive pedals to boost your guitar solos, you know. So, but now I'm using it more as a tone equalizer kind of thing. So it's got like treble and bass and gain and volume knobs. And then because I play different guitars on one set of my gigs, I probably play like 3 or 4 songs. I mean 3 or 4 different guitars according to the songs. And so I might need to do a little equalizer tuning, you know. So I use that as more as an equalizer than as a clean boost. And a new pedal, overdrive pedals. Every guitarist, you know, must have pedals, and there are so many overdrive pedal varieties. And I also went through a lot of this. I've been like Boss Blues Driver, the standard TS9 from Tube Screamer. I don't remember, like 3 or 4 different overdrive pedals. I also had a full tone OCD, I think, before this. So got rid of all this, and this is coming out from a handmade guy called Tavo Vega. It's from a factory called the Nocturne Brain. So he specifically makes pedals geared for more for rockabilly and Gretsch guitar players. He has some other preamps and delay, a lot of other varieties. But this one is called the Fluid Drive. It's like so super transparent. It's not a high gain pedal at all, because I don't play high gain music. It's like low gain overdrive. It's just, I mean, all the knobs are so tweakable, and you can instantly, you know, hear the differences in tone. It's very simple: volume, gain, bass, and high. But it's super transparent and very useful, and it doesn't color the tone of your guitar or amp. You know, it doesn't alter it like some TS9 does with their mid-hump bump. It doesn't do any of that. So this is a fantastic. I think this is also a keeper for me. I don't think I'm going to be looking out for any more overdrive pedals. And up next is the Strymon Flint. This is Reverb and Tremolo. Okay, another great classic. It's a classic pedal for the studio, for live work. It's you know, everybody knows Strymon as a great company, very good reputation. So this side of the pedal is for reverb, and the other side is tremolo. So it's got like 60s, 70s plate reverb, hall reverb, spring reverb, and also they have like harmonic tremolo, tube tremolo, photocell tremolo, a lot of things that you can do with this. So yeah, so this is also like, I guess I'm just going to stuck with this forever. It's one of my favorite pedals happening right now. Other than that, this is just I wanted to show this. It just looks like a normal Boss chorus pedal, but this is from the 80s, so it's all analog. I think they changed into digital choruses from the 90s, so this is like an analog chorus pedal. I sometimes use it, when you want to play it, like maybe Def Leppard or something. A couple of a looper pedal, of course, everybody's favorite. My best bandmate never complains, so it's a looper pedal. And a tiny Hall of Fame. I use this with the Polytone amp sometimes because that doesn't have reverb on its own. And that's it. This is just an ABY foot switch when I want to switch between channels in an amp or between two amps from Big Shot. Excellent stuff. That's about it. And my little tin can of Altoid mints where I keep my, I don't know, let's just picks and batteries and, whatnot. So yeah, so that's my pedal board, all powered from the DC brick. And this is still a work in progress. I still want to get a mystery brain preamp from the same guy, Tavo Vega, which has got like a preamp from a Roland Space Echo machine, half of it, and the other half is the delay from the same machine. That one, and maybe a multi-modulation pedal when I want to play with some phasers or choruses or flanges, which I rarely do, but it's nice to have one multi-modulation pedal. And yeah, so that's it. That's it for all the gear that I have, my guitars and my amps and my pedals. And the takeaway from this is, I guess, I don't want to make it sound like a PowerPoint presentation, but don't be stuck with just made in USA and custom shop. If you're a musician, you born with your instrument. Whatever instrument speaks to you, that should be. So where it's made in Vietnam, if it's made in China, if it's made in Indonesia, doesn't matter. Excellent instruments coming out from all the shops now. You look at Mexican Fenders, excellent stuff coming out from there. Japan, no question about that. So don't be so like, I mean, in the end, it's your money. If you want to spend your money, I have nothing to say. It's passion, one life to live. It's always there. But then don't overlook cheaper budget instruments. They are out there, and there are some really killer guitars and amplifiers on the lower budget end also. So that's about it for me. Once again, I'd like to thank the team from Revolution TV. And so because of COVID, me and my band, we haven't been very active this last whole year, but we're definitely going to play out from March. We've been rehearsing at a nearby studio, so we'll see more of you. And if you come there, you can probably get to hear some of these guitars at our shows. And you can also check out our Facebook page for the band. Where we were called the Kathmandu Cats and the Dirty Boogie Brass Band. Very big, long name, but this small project that I'm doing is more of an instrumental rock, surf music, twang-inspired music. So we're called Los KTM Gatos. You can find it on our Facebook page. It's there somewhere. So once again, thank you for having me. I hope you enjoyed looking at my collection and maybe learned a few new things from this. Thank you.